The bowl was cold. I held it tight in my small hands. But the smell rising from it wasn't the warm smell of food like the other children at school had described. No, this smelled different. Bitter. It was dog food. Again. My stomach growled so loudly, I thought even the dog lying by the corner would hear it. I looked around the empty kitchen. The marble counters, the silver spoons, the giant fridge humming quietly. Everything looked expensive. But none of it was mine. None of it was ever for me. I dipped the spoon into the mush and brought it slowly to my lips. The taste made me wince, but hunger pushed me on. Each bite felt like shame burning down my throat. Then footsteps. Heavy. Slow. Coming closer. I froze, spoon halfway to my mouth, heart pounding in my chest. I wanted to run, to hide, to disappear. But it was too late. A shadow filled the doorway. It was him. The man who adopted me. The millionaire. My father. His suit was crisp, his shoes polished, and in his hand, a phone still glowing with messages from people who lived in a world far away from mine. His eyes landed on me. Not with love, not with care, but with something colder than winter. What are you eating? His voice was sharp. I swallowed hard, the taste still on my tongue. My lips trembled, but no words came out. My hands shook as the spoon clattered against the bowl. He stepped closer. His eyes widened as he saw clearly. Dog food. The silence stretched like a knife. For a moment, I thought maybe he'd feel something. Maybe pity. Maybe shame. But instead a laugh. Low at first, then bitter, shaking his shoulders. You're pathetic, he said. Do you know how much money this house holds? And you choose this? Choose. I didn't choose. I had no choice. But before I could even lower my eyes, I heard another sound. Soft heels clicking against the polished floor. Then she appeared. His wife. Her lips curved into a cruel smile the moment she saw me. Look at her, she said, her voice dripping with disgust. Like an animal at its bowl. This is what happens when you bring her kind into our home. Her kind. Those words cut deeper than hunger ever could. I wanted to scream. I wanted to shout that I wasn't an animal. That I didn't belong in shadows. But my throat locked, and only silence came out. The dog in the corner whined softly, as if it understood. The millionaire's wife moved closer, her perfume heavy and suffocating. She bent down and whispered, Don't think you'll ever be part of this family. You'll always be less. Always. Her eyes glittered with something dark, almost enjoying my pain. But then, something inside me shifted. I didn't cry. I didn't look away. I lifted my chin and met her gaze, even though my stomach churned with fear. And that's when the unexpected happened. The millionaire, who had been standing still, suddenly froze. His laughter stopped. His face changed, confusion, shock, maybe even guilt flickering across his features. Enough, he muttered, though his voice cracked. He stared at me, at the bowl, at the spoon in my trembling hands. Why didn't you just say you were hungry? I blinked. No one had ever asked me that. Not once. The wife scoffed. She doesn't need more food. She needs discipline. If you spoil her, she'll start thinking she belongs here. But he didn't answer her. His eyes were still locked on me. Something in his stare made my heart pound even harder. It wasn't just anger now. It was recognition? Regret? Something he didn't want anyone else to see. And then the air shifted. I opened my mouth. For the first time in days, maybe weeks, I spoke. Just 4 words. And when I did, the millionaire's face went pale, as if he had seen a ghost. The spoon dropped from my hand and clattered against the floor. The sound echoed through the vast kitchen, but his silence was louder. I had said something he never expected. Something that would change everything. What did I say? Why did it freeze him so completely? That, you'll have to wait to see. Because this is where the real story begins. Before we continue, let me ask you something. What would you do if you walked into your kitchen and saw this happening? Would you protect that child? Or would you turn away like nothing happened? Comment your city and country below. Let me know where you're watching from. And if you believe no child deserves this kind of pain, then hit that subscribe button now. And if you love your mom, drop a like. If you love your dad, smash that like button too. Because the next of this story will shock you even more than what you've just seen. The words had already slipped out of my mouth before I even thought about them. For words. Simple. Sharp. But they shook the entire room. You never feed me. The millionaire's jaw tightened. His polished shoes creaked as he shifted his weight, like those words carried more weight than the marble floor could bear. His wife laughed, a high, cruel laugh that echoed against the walls. Feed you? Look around, she sneered, sweeping her hand across the kitchen. You live in luxury most children could only dream of. And you dare complain. But his eyes didn't match her cruelty. They were locked on me, searching, almost desperate. Like a part of him had been caught off guard, as though he hadn't realized the truth until I spoke it. I clutched the bowl tighter, my fingers digging into its cold rim. "I'm hungry every night," I whispered, my voice breaking but my eyes never leaving his. "Every night." The dog whimpered again, as if agreeing with me, as if it too felt the unfairness in the room. For a long moment, no one spoke. The wife's smile faltered when she noticed her husband's silence. "Don't tell me you're actually moved by this little act," she scoffed. But he still didn't answer her. His gaze flickered between me, the dog food, and the grand fridge behind me. His throat bobbed as he swallowed hard. For the first time since I'd known him, he looked human. "Enough," he finally muttered. But his voice lacked strength. It wasn't a command. It was a plea. The wife's eyes narrowed, sharp as glass. She leaned closer to him, her words cutting like knives. "Don't let her manipulate you. She's nothing. You give her an inch, she'll take this family for everything." I wanted to scream, but my body was too small, my voice too soft. So instead, I did something unexpected. I stood. The chair scraped against the floor, the sound startling even me. I pushed the bowl of dog food away. My small frame trembled, but my voice came out steady. "I didn't ask to be here. You brought me. And if you can't see me as more than this, then maybe I don't belong here at all." The room went cold. The wife smirked, satisfied. Exactly. Finally, she understands. But then, and I'll never forget this moment, the millionaire turned his head sharply toward her. His eyes blazed with something I'd never seen before. "Quiet," he snapped. Her mouth fell open. Quiet. That one word cracked the mask of control she always wore. And then he turned back to me. His voice was low, shaky, almost broken. "Who told you you don't belong?" The question confused me. I blinked. My lips parted, but before I could speak, the wife hissed. "Oh, don't play dumb. You knew what adopting her would bring. This isn't about love, it's about appearances. You wanted people to think you're generous. A savior. Nothing more." His face drained of color. He didn't deny it. My chest tightened. So it was true. I was never really a daughter to him. Just a symbol. A trophy for his reputation. My heart sank, and I wanted to run, to escape, but then, his hand slammed against the counter. The sound made me jump. "Stop," he growled. "Stop pretending this is just about appearances. You don't know everything." The wife froze. For the first time, she looked uncertain. "What do you mean?" He didn't answer. His eyes flicked to me again, and for a second, I swore I saw tears forming in them. But just as quickly, he turned away, his back rigid. "Enough for tonight. Everyone out." The wife gasped. "You can't be serious. You're sending me away? Because of her?" But he didn't flinch. He pointed to the door. "Out!" The tension in the room was suffocating. The wife stormed out, muttering curses under her breath, her heels striking the floor like gunshots. And then it was just the two of us. Silence hung heavy, broken only by the hum of the refrigerator. Finally he spoke. His voice was hoarse. "I didn't mean for it to be like this." I stared at him, my small hands shaking. "Then why did you bring me here?" He didn't answer right away. He walked slowly toward the window, staring out into the dark night. His shoulders slumped, his figure suddenly smaller than I'd ever seen. Then, without turning back, he whispered something that chilled me to the bone. "Because you remind me of someone I lost." My breath caught. My chest tightened. What did that mean? Who? Before I could ask, his phone buzzed loudly on the counter. He grabbed it, looked at the screen, and his entire body went rigid. His face turned white, his eyes wide in shock. Whatever he saw on that phone, it terrified him. He shoved it in his pocket and turned back to me, his voice urgent. "Go to your room. Now. Don't come out until I say." I opened my mouth to protest, but the look in his eyes silenced me. It wasn't anger. It was fear. And I knew something dark was about to unravel. What was on that phone? Why did it scare him so much? And what did he mean when he said I reminded him of someone he lost? The answers are far more shocking than you think. Before we go further, I want to ask you something. If you were that child, standing in that cold kitchen, would you stay silent? Or would you fight for your place? Comment below your answer. And don't forget to tell me your city and country. I love seeing where you're watching from. And if you believe no child should eat dog food in a mansion, then smash that like button and subscribe right now. Because the truth hiding behind that phone will change everything. The house had grown colder, not because of the weather, but because of the silence that filled its golden halls. Every chandelier still sparkled, every polished floor reflected wealth, but behind the walls, something fragile had begun to crack. Little Amara sat on the stairs, her tiny hands wrapped around her knees, listening to the muffled voices of her adoptive parents in the next room. She wasn't supposed to hear, but she always did. Children notice what adults try so hard to hide. You can't keep her here forever. Lady Vivian's voice snapped like a whip. She doesn't belong. Look at her, eating scraps like some animal. Do you realize what people will think if word gets out? Her husband, Mr. Caldwell, sighed heavily, his voice low, conflicted. She's a child, Vivian. She's been through enough. What people think doesn't matter as much as what's right. Amara's heart twisted. She didn't understand every word, but she knew the tone, knew she was the subject of their anger. She hugged herself tighter. Why did Mama Vivian hate her so much? Why did Papa look at her with sadness instead of love? The silence after their argument was heavier than the words themselves. Amara slipped down the stairs, her little feet soft against the marble. She wandered into the empty kitchen, where the glow of the fridge light was her only companion. She opened it quietly, hoping for something, anything to eat. A few grapes rolled to the side. Half a loaf of bread. She reached out, but then froze at the sound of footsteps. It wasn't Vivian or Caldwell. It was Rosa, the old housemaid, her hands still damp from washing dishes. Rosa knelt down beside her and whispered, "Menina, why are you sneaking food at this hour?" Amara lowered her gaze. "I was hungry. Mama says I don't deserve the big meals. That I should be grateful for crumbs." Rosa's eyes filled with tears. She pulled Amara into her arms, holding her close. "Don't you ever believe that, Querida. You deserve love. You deserve more than all the gold in this house." Her words should have comforted Amara, but instead they burned in her chest. She wanted to believe Rosa, but every day, Mama's harsh stares reminded her that she wasn't truly wanted. The next morning, the house came alive with chatter and footsteps. Important guests were coming, investors, friends of the Caldwell family. Vivian had orchestrated every detail of the luncheon, determined to maintain appearances. "Amara," Vivian's voice rang sharp as a blade. "You will stay upstairs. No one needs to see you. Understand?" The little girl nodded silently, though inside, her heart broke. She wanted so badly to sit at the big table, to hear the laughter, to feel part of a family. But her place, as Mama always reminded her, was in the shadows. Upstairs, Amara sat by the window, watching from above as the long dining table below filled with crystal glasses and golden plates. Laughter drifted up, mixed with the clinking of cutlery. But what caught her attention wasn't the food, nor the guests. It was her papa. Mr. Caldwell sat stiffly, his gaze distant. His smile was forced, his laugh hollow. When one of the guests raised a toast to family legacy, Amara saw his hand tighten around his glass. He looked like a man trapped inside his own kingdom. Down below, Vivian's laughter echoed, rich and confident, while Amara whispered to herself, "Papa is sad." Children always see the truth behind masks. That night, when the guests were gone and the house was quiet again, Amara gathered the courage to approach her papa. She tugged at his sleeve while he sat in his study, drowning in papers and silence. "Papa," she whispered. He looked down, startled, then softened when he saw her. "What is it, sweetheart?" Her little voice trembled. Do you wish I wasn't here?" The question struck him like thunder. His breath caught, his chest heavy. "Who told you that?" Amara's eyes watered. "Mama. She says I don't belong. That I make you ashamed." Caldwell dropped his pen, his face pale. For a long time, he said nothing, as if struggling against invisible chains. Finally, he reached out and pulled her onto his lap. "Listen to me, Amara. You are not a mistake. You are not a shame. You are my daughter." But even as he said the words, his voice cracked. Because deep down, he feared Vivian's poison was stronger than his protection. And Amara, even in her innocence, sensed the conflict. Children don't just hear words. They feel the truth behind them. The following days only worsened the storm. Vivian's disdain grew sharper, her cruelty bolder. She berated Amara in front of Rosa, tossed her old toys into the trash, and whispered venom into Caldwell's ear at night. "She's nothing but a reminder. If you want to save your reputation, send her away." But each time, Caldwell resisted. Each time, his silence grew heavier, like a man battling both his wife and his conscience. And then came the breaking point. One evening, the family gathered for dinner. Amara, as usual, was given a smaller plate, pushed to the far end of the table. Vivian's friends chuckled as she made a cruel joke about charity cases. Caldwell's knuckles turned white against his fork. But before he could respond, something unexpected happened. Amara stood up. Her tiny frame trembled, her hands shook, but her voice carried the weight of truth. "Why are you laughing?" she asked, her big eyes staring at the guests. "Why do you hate me? I never asked to be here. I never asked for your food, or your clothes. I just wanted a family." The room froze. Forks clinked against plates. The laughter died instantly. Even Vivian's smirk faltered for a second. Caldwell's heart shattered at the sight of his daughter's tears. And in that moment he knew he could no longer remain silent. He slammed his fist against the table, startling everyone. "Enough!" His voice roared, raw and unfiltered. "This cruelty ends tonight. Do you hear me, Vivian? Ends!" Gasps filled the room. Vivian's face twisted with rage, her pride wounded before her guests. But Caldwell no longer cared. He pulled Amara close, shielding her from every stare, every whisper. But just as the room seemed to settle into shock, a new voice emerged. Rosa, the maid, who had silently endured for too long, stepped forward. "Senor Caldwell," she said, her voice trembling but strong. "It is time you told her the truth. It is time you told Amara why she is here, who she really is." The room gasped again, sharper, louder. Amara's eyes widened. "The truth," she whispered. Vivian froze, panic flashing in her eyes. Caldwell turned pale, his lips parting, but no words coming out. Because the truth, once revealed, would burn everything to the ground. And Amara's life would never be the same again. Rosa has hinted at a hidden truth about Amara's origins, something Caldwell has concealed all along. The guests are stunned, Vivian is terrified, and Amara herself is desperate to know. But what is the truth that could destroy, or redeem, this family? If you were sitting at that table, would you demand the truth, or walk away in silence? Comment below where you're watching from, and what you would do. And if you believe every child deserves love and respect, hit that like button. And don't forget to subscribe, because the secret about Amara is about to explode in next. The dining room was frozen in silence, the kind of silence that weighs heavier than thunder. Rosa's words still hung in the air, vibrating through the crystal glasses and polished silverware. Amara stood there, clutching her tiny hands against her chest, her wide eyes darting from Rosa to Papa to Mama Vivian. She whispered again, her voice quivering, but sharp enough to cut through the tension. "What truth? What do you mean?" Caldwell swallowed hard, his lips pressed together as though he wanted to speak, but his throat refused to obey. Vivian, on the other hand, shot up from her chair, her voice shrill and desperate. "Enough of this nonsense. Rosa, you've overstepped your place. Get out, this instant." But Rosa did not move. For the first time in years, she stood taller than her employer, her weathered hands clenched into fists. "I have cleaned this house, scrubbed these floors, and carried your secrets for too long, Senora Vivian. No more. Tonight, this child deserves to know who she is." Amara's heartbeat quickened. She tugged at her Papa's sleeve. "Please, Papa, tell me. Don't let her scare me anymore." Caldwell's eyes brimmed with tears, but still he hesitated. The guests, sensing a scandal far bigger than they'd bargained for, leaned in like vultures waiting for flesh. Vivian's face twisted into something almost inhuman, fear mixed with fury. "She's nothing, Henry." Vivian screamed, pointing at Amara. "She's a burden you brought into this home out of pity. You think she deserves the Caldwell name? You think she deserves this wealth? She's just the daughter of a maid. That's all she'll ever be." The words struck Amara like daggers. Her knees went weak, her stomach churned. She stared at Vivian with watery eyes. "A maid's daughter?" Rosa stepped forward, her voice trembling with righteous fire. "Not just a maid's daughter, Menina. You are my daughter." The room exploded with gasps. Even Caldwell closed his eyes, as if bracing for a storm he had prayed would never arrive. Amara blinked, her small hands trembling. You're my mother?" Rosa nodded, tears sliding down her cheeks. "Si, querida. I carried you in my womb. I held you when you took your first breath. But the world was cruel, and I was poor. I had nothing, no power, no money, no way to give you the life you deserved. So I made the hardest choice a mother could ever make. I gave you to him." She pointed at Caldwell, her voice breaking. "Because he promised me. He promised you would never go hungry, that you would never feel unloved." The guests murmured, their curiosity now eclipsed by shock. Amara looked between Rosa and Caldwell, her heart torn in two. "Papa, is it true?" Caldwell's face collapsed under the weight of truth. He took her small hand, his voice soft but heavy. "Yes, Amara. Rosa is your birth mother. And I adopted you because I wanted to protect you. But I should have told you. I should never have let Vivian fill your heart with lies. Vivian's chair screeched as she pushed it back violently. Lies? Lies, she spat. You've ruined us, Henry. You've ruined this family by dragging her into it. Do you realize what people will say when they learn the Caldwell heir eats beside the maid's child? Her words stung the room, but this time, Caldwell did not flinch. He stood, his chair toppling behind him, and his voice thundered. Enough, Vivian. Do you even hear yourself? You talk of wealth and legacy, while a little girl starves under your roof. This family's name means nothing if it is built on cruelty. The guests stared in stunned silence, some exchanging awkward glances, others lowering their eyes in shame. For the first time, Vivian realized she was no longer in control. But she refused to back down. If you choose her over me, Henry, then you choose ruin. You'll lose everything. Investors will walk. Friends will abandon you. Are you prepared to throw away everything we've built for her? All eyes turned to Caldwell. The air grew heavy, every second stretching into eternity. He looked at Amara, his daughter by law, by love, by something stronger than blood. He looked at Rosa, the woman who had carried her, sacrificed her, and silently watched from the shadows. Then he looked at Vivian, the woman he had married, but who had poisoned their home with hatred. His decision came in a single breath. If wealth requires me to betray my child, then I want no part of it. Gasps rippled through the room. Vivian's face drained of color. You wouldn't dare. I would, Caldwell growled, his voice steady. And I do. From this moment forward, Amara is my daughter in every way that matters. And Rosa, he turned toward the trembling maid, will never again hide in the shadows of this house. She is family too. Vivian's eyes burned with fury. You'll regret this, Henry. You'll regret it when this empire crumbles beneath your feet. But before she could storm out, Amara's small voice cut through the tension. I don't want empires. I don't want money. I just want love. If being rich means people hate me, then I'd rather be poor with Mama Rosa. The guests, moved to silence, shifted uncomfortably in their seats. One older gentleman finally stood and placed his napkin on the table. Henry, I've invested in your ventures for years. And tonight, I've seen the kind of man you truly are. A man who protects the innocent, even when it costs him everything. That's the kind of leader worth standing beside. One by one, several guests nodded in agreement. Vivian's threats crumbled before her very eyes. She realized, too late, that cruelty had cost her far more than pride. It had cost her power. She stormed out of the dining hall, her footsteps echoing like the final notes of a bitter song. When the door slammed, Amara threw herself into Caldwell's arms. He lifted her high, pressing his face into her curls. You'll never eat alone again, he whispered, voice breaking. Never again. And Rosa, standing nearby, wept openly as she placed her hand on both of them. For the first time, she felt like more than a servant. She felt like a mother again. The empire did not crumble. In fact, under Caldwell's new vision of kindness and integrity, it grew stronger. Investors admired not just his business acumen, but his courage to stand for family, for truth, for love. As for Vivian, she disappeared from their lives, her name nothing more than a whisper of bitterness. And Amara? She blossomed. No longer the child eating scraps in the shadows, but the cherished daughter of two parents, one who had given her life, and one who had given her protection. Her story was proof that blood may begin a family, but love is what keeps it alive. If you were in Amara's place, would you forgive Vivian, or would you shut her out forever? Comment below with your answer, and tell us the city and country you're watching from. If you believe that every child deserves love over wealth, hit that like button. And if you want more powerful stories that will move your heart and soul, subscribe now, because the next story will leave you speechless.